You know, Donald Trump is a litigious individual. He's quick to sue news organizations that try and hold him to account, but he's also the commander-in-chief who appears to be using every weapon in the federal government's arsenal to go after those same news organizations. He is currently suing, in his private capacity, CBS for $20 billion, but at the same time, his FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, is investigating CBS while Mr. Trump, President Trump, is calling on him to go even further and to revoke CBS's license because he didn't like the coverage that they gave. He's doing all this while Paramount, CBS's parent company, is in merger talks with a billionaire Trump super donor, David Ellison. So, Mr. Aaron, can you help us understand how these actions by President Trump and his administration might send a chilling message to news organizations?
Yes, I mean, I think the message the administration is sending is pay up and get in line. I mean, they've repeatedly, you know, President Trump as a private citizen filed these lawsuits, but President Trump is no longer a private citizen. He's sitting in the Oval Office, using the power of that office and of his appointees to go after the same companies he's filed lawsuits against. That's outrageous. And on terms that are almost unthinkable. We're talking about editing a video. We're talking about asking some fact-checking questions. We're talking about, you know, unbelievably normal operations of news organizations, reporting on the activity of law enforcement, all First Amendment protected things that these news organizations are doing. And yet under the Trump administration, the message is, if you're not in line, if you're not singing from our hymnal, we're going to come after you with the force of the government. And that's what we should be concerned about. That's where it crosses over from the concerns of an individual saying, I didn't like what you did, to actual censorship and government power being abused.
Well, it's not just what you've said. In December, ABC agreed to settle a $16 million lawsuit by Mr. Trump and his foundations. And then just last month, Meta paid $25 million to settle what, honestly, as a lawyer, seemed to me a pretty ridiculous 4-year-old lawsuit. Just last July, Mr. Trump threatened to throw Mark Zuckerberg in jail. And then after he won, Zuckerberg went down to Mar-a-Lago, had dinner with him, where Mr. Trump told him he could be brought into the tent. And then, of course, Zuckerberg and Meta settled the lawsuit brought against them for four years ago. Meta settled for $25 million. That's on top of the $2 million Meta and Zuckerberg contributed to the inauguration. It looks like these companies are agreeing to make these payments to Donald Trump in kind of a pay-to-play measure. What do you think, Mr. Aaron?
I agree with your analysis, Congresswoman. It looks like they're making payoffs. These were not cases, you know, the lawyers that looked at them, the law professors that looked at them, when they were filed, said these are completely specious. These are outlandish. These are not actually viable cases. And yet now that Mr. Trump is in office, suddenly these media companies are lining up, writing checks for tens of millions of dollars to a sitting president, either to say, please, you know, take the target off their back, or to seek major regulatory favors, like a mega merger. I don't support a mega merger, but the idea that the cost of getting that merger done is altering your editorial content or having to respond to have your other business interests challenged, your licenses taken away, it's unbelievable. It's outrageous.
Well, I agree with you, Mr. Aaron. I'm not sure whether the president is shaking down these corporations or whether they're offering him bribes because they realize that if they pay the right price, they'll get their way. But it's clear to me that there is these outrageous settlement payments to the president and his foundations are really, I think, incompatible with a free press. Can you explain, Mr. Aaron, what happens to a free and fair press, to journalism, when media organizations and the president are engaged in this type of pay-to-play? Is this something that other media organizations are going to pay attention to? What's the impact on the eco-structure?
Well, I do think there's a danger that they follow each other's leads, right? What we would like to see in this case is these media companies actually standing up for their rights, actually fighting these cases in court. But they've made, I would say very unfortunately, business decisions that they've decided the cost of settling, because it's advantageous to other parts of their business, is better than actually defending the First Amendment and free speech. I think that's a huge problem, because they are signaling to this administration, hey, if you don't like something you see and you file a lawsuit, you're probably going to get paid. Or they're saying, well, we don't want to go anywhere near that because we might face one of these outlandish lawsuits.